Chances are you have zoomed in with your smartphone camera to try and get a better shot every now and then, but you probably ended up with a mediocre, poor quality shot. That's because you're not really zooming, your smartphone is zooming in on what's already in the frame. Digital zoom is rarely a good idea, and it's completely different from the zoom you would see on a DSLR camera. Asus tried to tackle the problem with the Zenfone Zoom, which features 3 times optical zoom and optical-image stabilization, but sadly, the Taiwanese company completely missed the mark. Although optical zoom is rare on smartphones, it was the main attraction on Nokia's Lumia 1020. Even though the Lumia and its Zeiss optics are several years old now, the Zenfone Zoom doesn't improve much upon Nokia's aging Lumia 1020. The Zenfone Zoom isn't a bad phone, it's decent, but it's also far from being worth $400, and it doesn't deliver on its promise of taking better photos than your average flagship smartphone from Samsung, LG, or Apple. Let's dive into the finer details. The Asus Zenfone Zoom is quite the brick. At 5.5 inches, it's also burdened with sizable bezels that do nothing but make the device look less appealing. You're sure to feel the zoom in your pocket, as it's 11.95mm thick. When you compare that with the iPhone 6s Plus, which rises up to 7.3mm, the zoom looks pretty beefy. Yet despite its thickness, the front and sides of the phone feel relatively high-end, especially with the metal frame and rounded corners. Unfortunately, it loses all feeling of quality when you touch the faux leather back. The material on the back is also extra slippery, and perhaps that's why Asus includes a wrist strap on the bottom of the phone. The buttons on the side of the phone offer good feedback and aren't hard to press, and the Zoom's dedicated video record and camera shutter button is quite possibly the best function of the smartphone. The buttons don't protrude out much, preventing unnecessary clicks. However, that's nothing new, either. Sony and a few other manufacturers offer a dedicated camera button as well, and many phones offer the ability to use the volume keys to take photos quickly. The capacitive buttons are fine too, though they look dated. The design for the home, back, and reset tap buttons look like the ones you would find on phones from Android's early days. In another old-fashioned move, the headphone jack is located at the top of the phone. However, the back cover is easy to remove, so you can throw in your SIM or a micro SD card. Sadly, the battery is not removable or replaceable. As with most of Asus phones, you'll find yourself booting up a device that has dozens of third-party apps that offer little to no value to you. There are duplicate tapes of almost everything from the gallery and mail, to the calendar and music apps. The number of pre-installed apps on the Zoom is a little crazy, and it's likely to drive Android purists nuts. One of the pre-installed apps, Clean Master, will constantly nag you with notifications, flagging apps like Google as a threat. Thankfully you can uninstall, if not disable, most of these apps. The Zoom runs on Android 5.0, but Asus claims the device will be updated to Android Marshmallow sometime in the second quarter of 2016. That's incredibly late, so don't expect to get Android 10 on this device when it launches in the fall. Of course, Asus Zenfone masks the standard Android interface, but offers decent customizability options, such as setting a lock for various apps. Zenfone could be a little overwhelming with its need to present more information than necessary, and looks old and outdated. Although you can choose between numerous paid and free themes to update the look of the skin and icons, Zenfone just isn't as nice to look at as stock Android. Thankfully, the phone makes up for its lackluster Android skin with speed. Apps open quickly, and switching between them is a breeze. Even with all of its pre-installed bloatware, the phone never felt sluggish. The camera is what's on everyone's mind when they see the huge camera hump on the back of the Zoom. There's a 13-megapixel camera inside that bulge, but it's the 3x optical zoom HOI lens that takes up most of the room. Asus made the volume rocker into a dedicated zoom button to make it easier to zoom in on the subject you want to shoot in the camera app. Press the volume down end of the rocker, and you zoom out. Press the volume up end, and you zoom in. The zoom is actually pretty good, though not as impressive as we were hoping it would be, given that huge camera hump on the back of the phone. The photos themselves have good enough color balance and detail, but thanks to the average sensor, the resulting images look dull when compared to pictures we took with the Samsung Galaxy S7, LG G5, and the iPhone 6s Plus. If the Zoom were just your average mid-range smartphone, the camera's results wouldn't be quite so disappointing, but since Asus is advertising the Zoom's camera as its main feature, it's disgraceful that your average flagship phone takes more enticing pictures. For example, take a look at the two images below. One was shot on the iPhone 6s Plus, and the other on the Zoom at 3x zoom. I zoomed in a little with the iPhone 6s to match up the shot with the zoom, but included also are the fully zoomed out versions from both phones. You can see the level of detail is good enough on the Zoom, but when it comes to color balance, the 6s Plus is far more accurate. The 6s Plus shot also looks a lot brighter. The Zoom itself really struggles with details when you zoom in, but you can get some solid shots as long as you only zoom in up to 3x. Don't expect anything of great quality to come out for anything higher. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more gadget info and give me feedback on the comments.